Okay, so now we're here to code this to see how that coding changes. So let's go ahead and see. So we have var let's loop, and we have uh, stuff in come on now, loop, and what else we got? Var, we have loop count, and we have stuff accum. Okay, and then down here, constants, and we have var. Oh, see, that should have been that. Let's go ahead and move this down. Var let's loop. Remember, we have to make that equal to yes. That's initializing the loop. Okie dokie. I think that's everything, right? All right. So now we're ready to go ahead and start coding. Let's just go down here and do calculations / logic. So we already have initialized it here. So the next thing we have is a while. So while, because remember it's a while loop that we're using. Then in parentheses, we have to put what we're testing, which is this, Control C, Control V. Now this is your first problem. You have to have two equal signs. If you do not put two equal signs there, you will have locked yourself in a loop, and you have to shut down the software to get out of it. There's no escape. In Visual Logic, we're lucky. We have this stop button here that allows us to say, oh, we're locked in a loop. We hit stop and everything stops. Well, in HTML-Kit, there is no stop button. So if you forget this equal sign, the second one, you are going to lock yourself in a loop. And of course, we're going to need braces. And this is start loop. And of course, we always do the stop loop. So this is how we get in. How do we get out? Well, we're going to use this let's loop again, Control C, Control V, and we're going to have a prompt, open and close parentheses, semicolon. The question we want to ask is, do you want to loop again? Now you know that that's not the question we'll be asking our customers, but for this example, this is good. And the default value whenever you're using a prompt to get out of the loop is yes, because it's going to be yes every single time except once. So it's only going to be no once. It's going to be yes many times. So we go ahead and do a favor for our user and say, yeah. Okay, and then we have document.write. Oh, not alert. Done looping. Again, this is important. If you have nothing else in your program to let you know that you're out of that loop, you're going to be very frustrated because you're going to think you're out and you're not, or you're going to be thinking that you are out and you're not, or you think you're in and you're not. So always have something to let you know that you're outside of the loop, and something that shows up only when you're outside the loop. So let's go ahead and see if what we've done so far actually works. But before we do, there's something other important thing you need to do when you're coding, and that is before you try your loop the first time, you want to save it. Oops. And student Here we go. So we're going to do lesson 7. Come on. And this will be first loop.htm. There's a reason why you want to save it. As I mentioned, if you lock yourself in a loop by forgetting to put the 2 equal signs here, you have to shut the software down. And a lot of times Windows will not allow you to shut down the piece of software because it says, well, something's running and I won't shut down. And then you have to do the Control-Alt-Delete and reboot your computer. And if you do, where you left off will not be saved. So we always save prior to testing our loop. All right, so let's preview and see what happens. Do you want to go in the loop again? Let's say yes. So we're in the loop and we stayed in the loop. We're missing that other output that says we're looping, but you can see that as long as this keeps going. Now the problem is if I change this to no and it goes around and asks me if I want to loop again, I've been locked into a loop and I'm in trouble. Sweet. So we have done looping. We know that we successfully exited the loop. All right, so that's important. All right, so let's go ahead and keep coding so we can do this flow chart. So the next thing we want to do is we want to do a counter. So let's do loop count equals loop count plus 1. And then I need to see if that's actually working. And I'll do an alert, open and close parentheses, semicolon. And I'll use that same output here. So I'll just go ahead and copy that and paste it in here. And you should do the same thing when you're coding. Is you've tested it, might as well go throw it in here. Now let's go ahead and see if this counter works. So we'll preview it. I didn't save it. What? Whew. Whew. All right. Don't do it like I do. Make sure you save it. All right. Now it is saved. Didn't work anyway, but I was too panicked that I locked myself in a loop. All right, so let's preview it. And it says, you have been around the loop NaN times. Huh, well, that doesn't seem right. So let's say yes and go around again. And it says you've been around NaN times. So NaN stands for not a number. And let's see what's going on here to find out why this says not a number. So we're going to take what's in loop count, we're going to add what's in loop count to 1, and then stick it in loop count. What's in loop count? Nothing. It can't add 1 to nothing. It's not a number. Nothing. This is not a 0. If it was a 0, it would have added just fine. But because it's empty, there's no number there, and it can't add 1 to no number. So really what we should have done is part of our constants should have been this. Equals 0. We need to start it out with 0 so we can do 0 plus 1, not empty plus 1. All right, so let me get rid of this now. We don't need up here. So you don't do it twice. You don't put a blank one and then this is declaring that and then putting 0 in it. Let's go ahead and preview it, see if it works after we save it. All right. Now it's 1. I say yes, and now it's 2. So that is working perfectly. And I say no. That's the only way to stop it, is this, to not say yes. All right, so now I have this next one. So after my loop count, then I'm going to have an input for stuff in loop. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Control C, Control V, equals prompt, open and close parentheses, semicolon. How much stuff, question mark. And we don't, this is a bunch of different stuff, so we're just going to leave it blank. Okay, and then after we bring it in, we're going to do stuff accum. So let's just go ahead. Here's stuff accum here. So we'll do Control C, Control V. Whatever accum equals whatever accum plus whatever we're counting. In this case, it is stuff in loop. Okay, and then we need one more alert. And we'll be using this. So just go ahead and copy that. Control C, Control V. All right, let's save it and then preview it. And you can't see that. There's 10 stuff first. So we have number of times around is 1. Undefined 10. That's disconcerting. Yes, and then we'll do 20, 2 loops, and then undefined 10, 20. Notice it's joining the 10 and the 20. It's also saying undefined. So undefined the first time around, the second time around is undefined plus 10. What's going on here? Let's go no and take a look at our code. A couple of things. One is, just like our counter, we must start our accumulator with 0. That's the undefined that we had. But then it worked after that, and it put the 10 and the 20 and just joined it. And why would it do that? And that's because, remember, this is text coming in, which means instead of adding, it's joining. So we're going to have to put in a conversion, and it's going to have to be stuff in a loop, Control C, Control V, parse int, open close parenthesis, semicolon, and what goes in there is stuff in loop. So we need to take the 10 text, put it here, send it through parse int, turning it to a binary text, and then storing it. So now it'll work fine. So let's go save, preview, 10. So we have one in the first loop, we have 10 things, and then yes, and then we'll do 20, 2 times around. Now we should have 10 and 20, just 30 things. And then if we do one more time and put 30 more things in, then we went around 3 times, and we have 30 plus 30 is 60, and then no, and we're done looping. So you can see now the problems that we have. So just before, this is getting pretty long, just remember, in fact, this should come out completely. We do not create empty vars for counters and accumulators. They all must start with 0. And we have to be careful whenever we're bringing in numbers from a prompt that's going to be accumulated. We need to use the parse int to change that from a text into a binary number, so that this plus symbol will be adding, not joining those values. So you can see there's a lot that goes into this. And again, another important thing is always make sure that you save your file prior to running it. So if things go to heck in a handbasket, you can always reopen your code then in HTML-Kit. But if you have to restart the computer and you don't get a chance to save your code, you'll probably code it wrong the second time, and then you'll be stuck a second time. So that's important. Counters, accumulators are both initialized with 0. Anytime we accumulating numbers coming in from our prompt, we must use parse int to change them into binary numbers, so it will use this as an addition symbol, not as a join symbol, which is what we're doing down here. All right, that ends it for this lesson.